All right, guys, so now that we know how to draw a person, from a stick figure to shapes to contour lines to adding the detail, now we want to start to add the value. So we can already start to look at our image since we're not drawing from a real person. And we can start to see there's light, medium, and dark areas. Now, before you start adding value, it is nice to kind of erase any extra lines that you don't need. Therefore, you're not confusing yourself to where you're adding those marks. So essentially, I'm not going to see her spine through her shirt. I can get rid of that, just like any excess lines on the legs or around the legs. So now that I've cleaned her up, it's time to start adding that value. So I'm a left to right kind of person. You can start where you'd like, but just looking at her arm, look at how we have a lighter side and a darker side. So what I can do is very lightly with my pencil, I can go in and I can start adding value to that area. So look at now how we already are having a little value. Under her arm is darker too. Now, because the light source is coming from this direction, hence why we have the highlight on the top, that means it's going to be the same on the other arm, and we're going to have just a little bit of shadow here and underneath. Now, the cool part are these shadows that we're creating are starting to shape the body. So look at how just going right under here gives her a little volume in her chest. We're going to have a shadow on her from her arm. So it's actually going to go that direction, and that's a pretty dark shadow. Then we have another dark one kind of down here, and this one coming in a little bit also. If you are having a hard time seeing shadows, you do want to go ahead and squint. That's going to help you find some of these. And of course, with all of these wrinkles in the shirt, we'd have little shadows there too. Same with the jeans. Now, our jeans are a little different because it is a cloth and not the skin. The skin actually shows more contrast than a cloth. So we want to make sure that when we're looking at these, and we'll start with this knee over here, look at how we have darkness right around the knee and to the bottom of the leg. So I want to look to see where that darkness is, and I want to try to mimic that in my drawing. Now, I'm not going really fancy. I'm not pressing super hard. I'm just kind of giving it an area and marking off where those darker areas are going to be. We can see it's a little darker right here. And then we have a little bit of darkness over here on the bottom also because of the light and back where those legs are. The socks also do the same thing. They don't reflect as much light, but we have a little bit of darkness on the bottom and a little bit of darkness on the bottom. Now, if we wanted to be awesome, just like we would do if we're drawing a still life, we can actually add in the shadow of her actual body. Because remember, just like when we're drawing a sphere or an object, the shadow is on the opposite side of that light source. So if we wanted, we could even add that in too. And this is our basic value to get started. Then we can go in and we can really start to define. So around this elbow is a little bit darker. Again, a little bit darker where that overlaps, and definitely darker where that arm overlaps. We can go in and define some of these. Have a difference between your light and your dark areas so you could smooth out some of that value. The bottom of this is quite dark. We can even start to give value. So her pants are darker than her shirt. So if we needed to, we could even start adding a little bit of value so it doesn't all look the same. Just like with her hair, we can go in and start making that darker. That really helps the face and the arms and the hands stand out. And I'm going to go ahead and build this up down here. So it's going to be a little bit darker from that overlap. Smoothing out that value. Now, some of your figures might not have as much value as you think. And that's okay because it depends the material in which they are wearing. And we'll talk about that more in class. But this is a basic way of how to add value to your figure. So remember, we start with the bones. And then we add the body, which is the muscle and the skin. Then we add our clothing, our details, and then our value. So we're following 5 major steps to create this person, this figure drawing. But what's cool is we repeat these steps just like drawing from observation, where we start with our lines and our shapes. Then we add our detail, then we add our value. Because we're drawing something more difficult, we have to add in that body and the clothing. Nobody wants to draw a person that is this skinny. That is a skinny person, and we're looking more cartoony. We want to try to be a real person with volume that can move, that can function. That is what we are looking for in our drawings. I cannot wait to see yours.